The East County gets blasted by high winds as a red flag warning continues across Southern California for extreme fire danger. And while firefighters have a lot of high-tech tools for spotting fire, sometimes there's no substitute for the old-fashioned approach. Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Those stories coming up tonight on KPBS Evening Edition.
And in our weekly roundtable, why some North County parents are bent out of shape over free yoga classes in local schools. I'm Peggy Pico. That story and more about the Chargers' performance coming up.
And San Diego's tiniest patients will soon have a new place for tender, loving medical care. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. The red flag warning for high fire danger continues for San Diego County tonight. High winds whipped through the county today with gusts up to 60 miles per hour in parts of the East County. The strongest winds are along ridge tops and mountain slopes. The red flag warning extends across most of Southern California tonight. It's in effect until Saturday night for the inland valleys and mountain areas. Has agreed to stop interfering with protesters who videotape police conducting controversial driver's license and DUI checkpoints. Our Fronteras reporter Adrian Florido joins us from the News Center with an update. So, Adrian, we've heard about these checkpoints being controversial, but why are protesters videotaping them?
Well, they are controversial, and the reason is that although these checkpoints are for driver's license and sobriety, a lot of Latino activists in Escondido have accused police officers and California Highway Patrol officers of actually using them as a way to target Latino and undocumented members of the Escondido community. There are a lot of Latino immigrants who live there, a lot of undocumented people, and there's been a history of tension, as we know, in Escondido between Latino communities and elected officials. And so what they're trying to do is go out there and just kind of monitor these with video cameras to try to ensure that officers aren't actually racially profiling or targeting Latinos or undocumented people specifically.
And tell us about the lawsuit the ACLU filed against the city of Escondido.
So the ACLU and activists had been concerned that in the past officers had dispersed protesters who'd come out to monitor these checkpoints. There had been at least a couple of documented instances where police did make these protesters move from public sidewalks. The ACLU sued the city and the California Highway Patrol to basically try to get them to allow protesters to be there. The city of Escondido has settled that lawsuit. It's going to allow protesters to stand and protest and videotape if they want to, as long as they stay on public sidewalk far enough away from the checkpoints so as not to interfere with them. The California Highway Patrol hasn't settled the lawsuit yet, so that part of the lawsuit is still ongoing.
All right, from our Fronteras desk, Adrian Florido. A new poll finds increasing support for a measure to repeal California's death penalty, though not enough for it to pass. It's only a 3-point gap between yes and no votes for Proposition 34, with 12% undecided. It is a big jump in yes votes since last month, when 51% of voters were opposed. Prop 34 would replace the death penalty with a life sentence and no possibility of parole. The survey also looked at support for Prop 36, a measure to change the state's three strikes law. A majority of voters say they will vote yes. Protesters and supporters were on hand to greet First Lady Michelle Obama in La Jolla this afternoon. She attended a $1,000 a plate fundraiser at the home of Qualcomm founder Erwin Jacobs. He is one of President Obama's top financial supporters. Jacobs is also a supporter of KPBS. A disappointment for San Diego music lovers. The chamber group Orchestra Nova says it's canceling the rest of its concerts this season. KPBS arts reporter Angela Carone has been following even before the conductor resigned last week. Now, Angela, why is Orchestra Nova canceling its entire concert series?
Well, Dwayne, they've been in the midst of contentious labor talks with the local musicians union over contracts and salaries. Conductor Jung Ho Park wanted to hire musicians based on stage persona and how theatrical they could be while they were performing. The musicians wanted the traditional contract. Park ended up resigning over the dispute just days before the season opening concerts. So the organization doesn't have musicians or a conductor, and they didn't see the impasse with the musicians ending anytime soon. So they decided to cancel the rest of the season. That's 15 concerts in all.
And what does this mean for folks who already have tickets to upcoming concerts?
Well, 22 arts organizations in San Diego have stepped up and agreed to honor the tickets, the season ticket holders and those who've already purchased single tickets. They've agreed to honor those. And so groups like the San Diego Symphony and mainly Mozart, and also theaters like La Jolla Playhouse will honor those tickets.
The list is, of course, on our website, so folks can check it out there. KPBS arts reporter Angela Carone. A group of parents may sue the Encinitas Union School District over free yoga classes to students. Peggy Pico explains the parents' religious concerns and how the district is responding.
The parents' attorney sent an email to Superintendent Tim Baird calling the yoga classes religious in nature and threatened legal action if the district doesn't stop them. UT San Diego columnist Matt Hall joins me at our weekly roundtable to talk about the parents' claim. Now, Matt, you went to some of the yoga classes. You actually sent in on them. What were they like, and who were there? Who was there?
Well, I went and saw 2 classes, both first grade classes. There were probably a dozen or 15 kids, I'd say, in each. And, you know, they're 30 minutes, they're twice a week, and the classes that I saw, you had kids doing airplane, so they're lying down on their stomachs and putting their arms out, and they did alligator, and they did bird, and they did these poses that, you know, don't even have some of the names from what most people would think of as yoga. These classes, from what I saw and from what I believe, are not religious in any way.
They've been modified. Certainly those terms are modified. You don't have airplane pose or alligator pose in true yoga classes. Let me explain to the viewers this. Dean Broyles, the attorney hired by some parents at the school district, wrote an email where he said there's a deep concern that the Encinitas Union School District is using taxpayer resource to promote Ashtanga yoga and Hinduism, a religious system of beliefs and practices. Do you think the parents' concerns is really because of the origin of yoga coming from India and Hinduism, or, as you said, in what you observed, was there actually some sort of religious poses or practice going on?
I think it's both. I think that the parents who are concerned about this are doing it because it's Ashtanga yoga, which they say is rooted in you know, centuries-old Hinduism, and they're worried that their students are getting what they see as religious indoctrination. But it's not. I mean, this is not. They're not teaching the 4 R's of arithmetic, reading, writing, arithmetic, and religious indoctrination at this school, and it's sad because when I wrote my column that ran on Monday, the school is on a 2-week break. They're off track, and when I talked to the school board members before I finished my column up, they said, you know what, we've heard their concerns, we've toured ourselves some of these sites, we've seen the students' classes, and we hope this whole thing will die down over the break.
But it didn't.
And instead it's flared up. Now we have lawyers throwing accusations at each other.
Half of the Encinitas District schools, 9 of them actually, have started offering this program, I think, about a month ago, and the others will come on board in January. Well, who's paying for it?
The grant that's coming into the school is being paid by a foundation that is formed by a man who is an Ashtanga yoga practitioner. And
it's a nonprofit organization, right?
It's a nonprofit foundation, and what's interesting is that the program was actually started. Yoga was implemented in schools 3 years ago, and in a few campuses, and only this year has it kind of boiled over because they are implementing it district-wide. It has been so successful. These kids enjoy it. It's physical activity. It calms them. It's a kind of a stress. It eases their stress. So
we don't have a whole lot of time, but I wanted to get to the point. What is the district's response? Are they going to shut this down, or are they going to defend themselves?
I don't get the sense that they're going to shut this down. I think they hope that there won't be a lawsuit filed. But just yesterday on Twitter, Coast Law Group, which is a well-known Encinitas law firm, said that they'll represent the school district for free. So if we're headed for a legal fight, and we very well may be, you know, there's going to be some lawyering to do.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. UT San Diego columnist Matt Hall, thanks so much for talking with us about this.
Glad to be here.
The principal of South Crest Elementary School has a new look tonight. No hair. Here's Armando Farias' original look. He said he'd shave his head or bleach his hair if students at Baker Elementary scored 800 on their standardized tests. They scored 820, a 77-point improvement from last year in a school where most of the students are learning English as a second language. So this morning, to his students' delight, Farias paid up and got shaved. Good look. A new special area for families opens next week at the Kaiser facility in Grantville. About 4,500 babies are born at the hospital every year, and approximately 10%, or 450 babies, are admitted to the intensive care unit. Since his birth 2.5 months ago, Bradley Mancuso has spent almost his entire life in the neonatal care unit at Kaiser Hospital because of intestinal problems. His mom, Lauren, has done everything she can to make him feel at home. Stuffed animals and handwritten messages from his baby sister. This is where infants born premature and some with other physical problems are taken care of for a few days and sometimes beyond their first birthday. But this large room doesn't provide mothers any privacy or quiet time with their little ones. That's why this Kaiser facility on Zion in San Diego is opening 30 new state-of-the-art private care rooms to enhance family bonding time.
You gonna smile at Daddy?
You gonna smile at Daddy?
I'm gonna get you.
Brian Mancuso says the new private rooms are a much better experience.
It's challenging when you're put in a situation like this, and so every advantage that you can have to just not have to be in a situation where you're feeling uncomfortable is all the better.
Mother Lauren says they even got to pick their own room.
Overlooking the south side of Tierra Santa that way. Looking towards home. That's what.
The redesign cost $20 million. Dr. Matt Sebald is a neonatal specialist.
This is an incredible place that I get to work, and that we all get to work as a team to take care of these kids. And this is just going to make it all that much better.
Nurse Linda Douglas has been working in the neonatal care unit for 28 years and says they'll have to adjust to more spacious quarters.
Probably tripled our space, and so just by its very nature, we'll have to, work a little harder at staying closer and in touch.
As for young Bradley Mancuso, he has one more surgery around Thanksgiving, and if all goes well, could be home in Tierra Santa just in time for Christmas. Kaiser also added 8 special care rooms for expectant mothers to feel more comfortable. They come with private bath and showers and large windows looking outdoors.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, a battleground dispatch from Ohio, plus Shields and Brooks. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour.
Book lovers will have more chances to visit San Diego's public library. Starting next weekend, the city is adding Saturday hours for the Central Library on E Street, and 4 branch libraries will start opening on Sundays. Mayor Jerry Sanders says financial reforms made it possible to add hours, and more expansions are planned in the future. The wildfires in 2003 and 2007 helped fuel an ongoing push in San Diego to develop better and more sophisticated firefighting tools. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson has the story.
The latest weapon in San Diego's firefighting arsenal is an infrared camera mounted on the bottom of a plane. The electronic eye can look down at a fire scene, peek through the clouds of smoke, and search out a wildfire's flames. It's just one high-tech arrow aimed squarely at wildfires. Others exploit high-speed internet connections.
We looked at this map, and it was mostly red to show how hot. We're seeing this 100-degree-plus days.
San Diego Gas and Electric's David Weber loves to show off his high-tech tools, which include a sophisticated weather tracking system. But sometimes the newest high-tech tool isn't the best. Cleveland National Forest firefighters are still searching for flames in southern San Diego County the same way they've done it since the 1920s, from a metal tower perched on a peak near Lake Moreno. Battalion Chief Jason Kraling says the Los Pinos lookout sits about 4,800 feet above sea level.
This tower works because you can see everything from it. You can see it all the way to the beach. You can see several miles into Mexico, Imperial County, out into the desert lands where they farm and do their burning. And then you can see all the way to the San Jacinto Mountains and the San Bernardino.
It feels like home. Norm Mitchell lives here 5 days a week. He cooks, cleans, eats, and sleeps here. But more importantly, he watches for signs of smoke.
I scan, and I scan the ridge tops. And there are places that are more inclined to burn than others. And I concentrate into the wilderness.
And when he sees a wisp of smoke, he puts his Osborne fire finder to work. The barrel-sized disc that holds a map and sights is the heart of lookout operations. It dominates the middle of this tower room.
So what we'll do is we'll look through the rear sight, and we'll put the vertical string down through the center of what it is that we're locating.
And this is something even the best cameras cannot do. While cameras can see smoke on the horizon, they cannot give the precise locations correctly and quickly like an experienced fire spotter can.
And I'd put a time. I'd go 11:54, and I'd come over here and I'd go 5, 6, 7, 357 degrees, 30 minutes. And then I'd start to count out to where it was at, to Middle Peak.
Mitchell grew up in the rolling hills of western Pennsylvania, and he was drawn to this tower's remote location. For 8 years, he hiked 12 miles to get here, and 5 days later, 12 miles to get home. There's a paved road now, and the wilderness has a few more visitors.
We got this in here, which is the Espinosa, which is hiking. No motor vehicles in there, mountain bikes and hiking, horses, if they choose to. This is a 4x4 rock crawling and two-wheeling, single-track trail off-roading.
There may be more people than when Mitchell started working here, but he says it's still backcountry, and the backcountry's beauty carries a price.
Peaceful, rough, dangerous. This is nature. This is beautiful. Yeah, and people get hung up in it sometimes, and they get hurt. They get overtaken by the extreme. But this isn't here.
The Cleveland National Forest's Jason Kraling says there used to be thousands of lookout towers in the West. Technology, pollution, and tight budgets conspired to shut many of them down. But the Los Pinos lookout has endured in large part because Mitchell and others are so good at their jobs.
They look down on it all day. They know the peaks, they know the roads, they know the trails. And when you stare at something long enough, they know what is not supposed to be there.
Los Pinos is not the county's only lookout tower. Volunteers have helped restore 2 others, and there are plans to staff them during fire season. San Diego Chargers blew promising leads in their last 2 games, and the team is under investigation by the NFL over use of a banned sticky substance. Peggy Pico takes a look at the season so far.
UT San Diego sports columnist Jay Paris is here to talk about what's going on with the Chargers and how their recent performance is possibly affecting the career of Coach Norv Turner. Jay, thanks for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me.
The Chargers are 3-3 and tied for first in the AFC West. But your column last week was a little skeptical of their success.
Well, on the surface, that sounds pretty good. You always like to be in first place. You always, 3-3, you haven't lost more than you've won. It's the last 2 games and the way they lost. And they're
especially the Denver game.
Especially the Denver game. Let a 24-0 lead slip away. The previous week, they let a 10-point lead slip away to the New Orleans Saints. So The second half of the past 2 games, they've been outscored 52-7. That's usually when games are determined. Until they can tighten that up, it's going to be tough to move forward.
And these are kind of markers. I mean, in general, what does determine how a season progresses and what you can kind of predict from a team?
Football's pretty basic. It's keep away, really. You want to keep the ball. And the Chargers lately haven't been playing keep away very well. Phillip Rivers had 6 turnovers, gave the ball back to the other team 6 times in the most recent game. He has 37 turnovers in the last 22 games. So they're giving the ball back to the other team. Then the other team scores and you're in trouble. So they have to take better care of the football.
Even so, they're being investigated for sticky substance use that was banned quite a while ago. Is that impacting anything, or are people just saying, look, if you're going to cheat, win?
I guess so. It made for a neat story, too, with the bye week, and it gave a lot of guys something to write about. I think a lot of teams use this towel, the mystery towel that's out there, and I don't think there's going to be any huge ramifications from it. They got a lot of problems. That's probably not the high at the list.
Not at the top.
No.
Now, some of the fans, especially, you hear them blaming the coach. Others criticize the general manager. And I've even heard ownership come up on the chopping block. Whose responsibility is it, and who might take the fall for this season?
Well, the buck literally and figuratively stops and starts with Dean Spanos, the owner, and he's the king decision maker, so he gets the credit and he gets the blame. A.J. Smith, the general manager, some have questioned whether he's supplied Norv Turner with enough talent so Norv Turner can coach him up. Coach Turner wasn't a popular pick almost 6 years ago. He didn't have much equity. And in the last 22 games, they're 11-11. They haven't made the playoffs in 2 years. They have 1 playoff win in 4 years. So, you know, he's had a little time here, and he hasn't quite produced as was promised.
Yeah, and wasn't his whole thing all about quarterbacks?
His whole thing is about quarterback, and you look at Phillip Rivers' play a quarterback, and it's been going downhill. So if you're not winning games, you're not taking care of the ball, and now the thing you're supposed to do, develop quarterbacks, and that's not working. It's like inviting a Rolling Stones cover band to your party, and they don't know how to play Jumpin' Jack Flash. You got, if the quarterback's not doing well,
people are going to notice. People are going to notice.
Right.
Is there any likelihood that Turner will be fired in the middle of the season?
I don't think so. That's rare in football because you have to implement a whole new offense, a whole new defense, and there's not really anyone on staff who's ready to take that role. If that's going to be done, probably done in mid-January.
Okay, we're going to be following this along with the rest of San Diego's UT sports columnist Jay Paris. Thanks so much for talking with me.
Okay, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
As we told you earlier, a red flag warning of high fire danger is in effect until tomorrow night. It's expected to stay warm and breezy through the weekend. Here's a look at the forecast.
In tonight's Public Square, Republican Congressman Brian Bilbray has a new TV ad with his 25-year-old daughter, Brianna. In it, she talks about her terminal cancer and pleads with voters to support her dad's run for Congress. Take a look.
Brian Bilbray is bringing both sides together in the fight against cancer. He's nationally recognized for his efforts and says it's the most important thing he'll ever do.
The ad has stirred the pot of controversy on Twitter. Political consultant Amy Toma writes, wow, Brianna Bilbray is a brave woman. But San Diego City Bee editor Dave Rowland's take on it comes in the form of a sarcastic question. Not exploitative at all? While avid media watcher Benjamin Katz weighed in with, while I'm glad Bilbray now cares about cancer research, I'm sick of politicians who only care once it hits their family. You can join in on this conversation or comment on any other KPBS story by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, or email us at publicsquare@kpbs.org.
We'll wrap things up tonight with a ghost story of sorts. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando met up with some ghost hunters late one night at the 10th Avenue Theater.
The supernatural is all the rage, with Paranormal Activity 4 topping last weekend's box office. and reality TV shows like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures continuing their popularity. Here in San Diego, Alex Matsuo and her Association of Paranormal Study were at 10th Avenue Theater investigating ghosts.
We are on the 4th floor of the 10th Avenue Theater. This particular location is where a young girl had fallen down the stairs and died, and the legend is her spirit hangs out still in the stairwell, and 2 of our team members have actually heard the voice of a young child call out, "Mommy." We're revisiting some of the old places we went to where we got activity and just kind of push a little further to see what kind of responses we get. So this is a K2 meter, and actually what this does is this measures EMFs, electromagnetic fields. Ghost carries some electrical energy with them, so if a spirit were to come close, this would go off. Oftentimes when people report paranormal experiences, what they report is that all of a sudden the room temperature changes. So basically when we get that, then we just, shoot the temperature gun, and then it tells us the temperature. We're also going to use something called a spirit box, and we're going to ask the spirit box questions, and basically we're going to see what words pop up, because the spirit box goes through a database of words, and depending on what presence is there, sometimes certain words will pop up and we'll see if they're consistent with our investigation. We want to be more of a beacon of hope to those who have had paranormal experiences and let them know that they're not alone and there are people out there to help them.
After spending the night at 10th Avenue, Matsuo and her team reported hearing footsteps, and their spirit box suggested as many as 8 ghosts roaming the building.
KPBS Arts reporter Beth Accomando. Ghost hunting is by no means a science, but there are more than a half dozen paranormal societies in San Diego who believe we should keep an open mind to the possibilities, especially around Halloween. By the way, the 10th Street Theater isn't the only haunted one in town. We'll show you some others next week. Tonight's stories are on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great weekend.